as we're getting in here to the first pick and ban. So DRX is going to start off on blue, and I'll be curious to see how far the Gnar priority goes.
Yeah.
Will it get even banned or something like that? Will it get picked in the first round? We haven't really seen too much of that, because both of these top laners really do love that pick.
They really do. And the other question becomes, what sort of bans do we see around the jungle versus Pioshik? Because he has had the Udyr pick prioritized in a lot of different drafts where you wouldn't expect the Udyr pick to be good. And, you know, so far, he's been relatively successful with it, 2-0. He's only played it twice. It's been banned against him several times. But it's hard to ban Pioshik out of a jungle pool because his jungle pool is so strong. He's actually played 6 different junglers this season, including the Lee Sin, right? So, I think that the focal point probably needs to be elsewhere, and controlling that top lane matchup is certainly a way that KT can go about this. They banned the Kai'Sa away from blue side here, which means that DRX might just go down that Samira path. And that means KT can grab whatever they want in terms of that jungle priority. And if they really did want to prioritize the Gnar as highly as you were suggesting we might see, you know, nobody knows, but, and it would be very rare. We haven't seen it yet. That could be something to look at here once that first pick marksman goes the way of DRX.
Yeah, you would just expect the Samira pick here. We'll see if they do actually go for it as Taliyah. Thankfully, we're not going to see that left open. We already saw what Blank can do on it, alongside of pretty much every other jungler that's gotten their hands on that pick, so
yeah,
we're not going to let that one go.
They go Nidalee.
Lilia is the...
yeah, Lilia. I thought they would maybe go Nidalee as well, actually. That was another option I was thinking about for Pioshik here. And this will now be his 7th jungle champion he's played this season. Hasn't played it yet, but very high priority on that recently. I think after Arthur's performance against Genji, a lot of more teams have actually picked that up this week. So we'll see a very fast Udyr, why I'm saying Udyr, Azir lock-in. Uzi, is that you? And
it's back.
Okay, this draft is actually, if they lock in the Hecarim here, we're breaking all sorts of rules about what we understand to be true in this meta. The priority on the Azir extremely high here. And it works very well with the Hecarim, actually. So it is a good pairing in terms of team fights later on. Hecarim, you know, locks in Ghost and engages, sets up a big fear, and then Azir can actually continue that CC with Emperor's Divide. So it is very powerful, especially for objective control. And yeah, we already have the jungle locked in. You can't fool us, okay?
Support Lilia? Yeah. Oh, Pioshik. Gotta love it. I'm sad we didn't get him on camera, actually, while he was troll picking. But Jhin is going to be the choice here. And keep in mind that's with Samira available. And with only Kai'Sa banned, pretty much, in the AD carry revolution. Pretty much just a solo laner at this point of the game.
Ooh, Nocturne, yes!
Oh!
Yes! It's a Solka pick.
Here we go.
Well, Nocturne's ult got buffed on this patch.
Yeah.
So this is not a huge shocker that we're seeing it.
Somebody call Vedius, please. Someone wake him up. He's not awake right now. That's going straight to the mid lane.
Yep. There's the Samira pick coming in here now before second ban phase. So nothing crazy in terms of the marksman pick here for KT Rolster, but I mean, this is a pick that's a lot more deadly than something like a Galio mid in terms of its roam ability. It can, you know, instantly burst down a target. And it's very strong with a very fast roaming jungler like the Lilia. Arguably even better with something like a Taliyah, but the Lilia works really well with this too. This is actually a pretty terrifying start when you look at DRX and you look at actually how much, you know, they've probably spent prepping for this. And Solka has had so many unusual mid lane picks, so he's the type of player you expect to excel on an off-meta champion pick like this.
I just love watching DRX. It's like every single time they pick something weird and wonderful, and they win. You know, they're 3-1 so far. Oh man, they still have to go up against a lot of the strong teams in the LCK, but it's been fun to watch, and I really want to see if this Nocturne does pop off. Obviously, you can't ult him away when he is in min-ult, but after that, I suppose. But you're going to sustain a lot of damage, and I'm worried about that Samira, right? There's not that much peel outside of the Emperor's Divide at the moment. So we'll see what else KT draft in here.
Yeah,
that's kind of an answer.
The better pick, or you know, the next best pick would have been the Alistar, right? That's banned here too, no shocker. So there's not a whole lot of great setup now for the Samira. in terms of support, right? But they already have two really strong engage tools with the Azir and the Hecarim. So I think this is certainly still a good draft for the Samira, for KT Rolster, don't get me wrong. If they had the Rel as well, it'd be like actually not even fair how strong it would be in terms of those big team fights and the setups there. But, you know, the Leona is going to end up being a solid pick as well. Great for the laning phase. See the set? I actually like the Seraphine. They hovered for just a moment. It's very strong with the Jhin, can be very oppressive in lane. And you have the Nocturne as well for, you know, allowing you to be extra aggressive. They try to turn on you. Nocturne just zooms down to the bot lane with his ultimate. Certainly an option they could have committed to, but they go with the set instead, which is also going to be aggressive in lane, but not obviously for the same reasons as top Rumble.
I love this pick ban already, man.
Okay.
Oh, they're going to see champion and blow up champion. If DRX get ahead, that's it's going to be pretty insane, and they have a lot of reach.
I wonder if there's a possibility that this ends up being top Nocturne and mid Rumble as well. There's certainly an option if they did want to play it that way. It's going to be against the Gnar, so I do think that putting Nocturne in mid is going to be the better option, especially because he's global and can affect, you know, from the mid lane both top and bottom. It can also assist the jungle. And it looks like that is where we're headed for this, but, you know, if it was a different matchup in the top lane, perhaps you could have seen it.
Yeah, you know, the flexibility is always there, you know. Nocturne as a effective, aggressive laner doesn't change when, you know. But as you mentioned, definitely some extra value in the mid lane, so we'll be there. And man, this is a really fun draft from DRX. I feel like if anybody gets caught and they're ahead, they just die. I mean, pretty much anybody. Maybe not the Gnar, but like anybody else. If they get picked, you're looking at set ultimate. Jin's gonna lock you down. Nocturne's going in. Lilia can sleep you from range, and we have an equalizer. So yeah, we'll see.
I think that the early game, we do have to see a tempo advantage. It's very similar to other assassin mid laners that you see, right? The Yone, for example, the Akali that has been played in mid recently. You know, the new changes we're seeing to that priority based on Chovy's performance last week. You do have to get ahead early with this. It's not that they can't recover and scale into the late game, but in terms of the team fights, you will see straight up 5v5 where, you know, we're seeing front-to-back team fighting and its setup that they have around objectives. I feel like definitely favors the side of KT Rolster. But if they get an early lead, like you said, if they can snowball this Nocturne pick, I think this composition absolutely could work. Very difficult to execute, but this is definitely something they've prepared.
Yeah, fun stuff right from the get-go. We're going to jump into game number 1 of match 23 already here in the middle of week 3. Feels like it's gone by in an instant, but already so many big games and pog moments have happened.
The King and pick here on the Rumble versus the Gnar top is going to be really interesting as well, because there's a lot of burst in this Rumble pick, and it works super well with the Nocturne. If you can get a fear off onto Doran and you get a kill, like that lane can snowball out of control too. A Nocturne pick is just the glue that holds the top and bottom side together here so well. And, you know, in terms of straight up team fighting in the 5v5s later on, you know, when we're looking at Soul Point and some Baron fights, I feel like that's when KT is really going to shine. And the Samira pick has, you know, its big power spikes when she gets the Immortal Shield Bow, when she hits level 6. There are some timings around those early Drakes where she can find value, but you're still very vulnerable against the comp that DRX is running, so I don't know if you really want to force those too hard.
Yeah. And I feel like the more, you know, especially in the last, like, week, including yesterday, I feel like we're just seeing a lot of drafts that prioritize just, like, heavy damage. You know, we're seeing a lot more Rumble. And, you know, there are some tanks that get value still, like the Gnar. We saw Khan doing some crazy stuff on that yesterday. But at the end of the day, like, if even if the game goes late, if you just find one guy in the front and you have enough CC and pick potential, you can kind of just blow him up immediately. Like, there's so much damage in the game right now. And it really does feel like DRX have drafted into that a bit here.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if it actually works. You know, if they get behind and they kind of get dominated in lane and then nothing happens and the Nocturne jumps in and dies, You're probably not going to see this again.
Uh-oh.
But what's going on here? This is a bit of a problem. Maybe it was a bait onto Pyosik, but he's just fine with Becca behind him, and that's going to be a great start now for our Lilia jungler.
Yeah, this is amazing for her. It does end up being kind of an awkward situation where, you know, it slowed down what she was trying to do. She didn't get the kill she was looking for, but this is still an amazing start to steal this away. It's actually going to really slow down, you know, where Blank is headed in this game. And because Lilia can actually do the Gromp and this blue buff at the same time, it's going to go ahead and smite that away. This is a really nice start. It's been it's been about 8 years, just over 8 years since we've seen this. Since Ambition played it versus I Am Mid King.
Wow.
So, yeah, I remember back then when Mid Nocturne was kind of becoming a thing, and then it just stopped being a thing. It's been a little while.
Yeah, that is just insane. I feel like it's almost, you know, that was when I first casted LCK as well. I think I did summer, but that was winter, so it was the season after, perhaps? Maybe I did winter. It's been a long time. But, man, it's been nearly 3,000 days.
Yeah.
And Solka brings it back, at least in the LCK. So, cool to see. See if it actually works out.
Yeah, I saw you tweet about this yesterday, and every time you try to bring up narrative, there's always a jungle tussle. But still a massive lead to Pyosik here. Blank's like just not getting a whole lot of anything. Ping's going down, feels bad. You were talking about how you're excited to see that what feels like recently we're seeing a lot more solo carry type champions being played, and the meta is kind of shifting towards, you know, for example, Rascal's Quinn yesterday we saw where he tried to get so fed and get so ahead that he could roam around the map and the map would belong to him. Obviously, no one has to mention the Chovy series. Everybody knows that's another one of those moments, you know, you're kind of alluding to. And the Nocturne certainly can be a champion that gets out of control. Not as easy to pull off as something like the Yone or the Akali, but can be a champion that gets out of control and makes it impossible to side lane, makes it impossible to check vision. So something to look out for here. I like this a lot. We're seeing a big shift right now, whereas, you know, just a few weeks ago, and even in Kespa Cup, we were seeing very safe mid picks, control mages only, and now Assassin's back on the rise.
Solka looking to stop that back. And yeah, on that idea, I remember it was in week 1, after we had seen the Kespa Cup, where it was only tank supports. And I was like, when is somebody just going to unleash an enchanter and put some pressure on the lanes? And then we finally saw Lehens bringing in the Seraphine. He's been like the, you know, one of the only players to do it. We've had some other players attempt it, but
he's been the most successful.
When a meta, yeah, when a meta gets stale and everybody, it becomes very predictable, and you just know what they're gonna play. It's like, oh, is BDD gonna play Syndra, or is he going to flex onto Orianna this game? It's like, well, okay, how do we take advantage of that, you know? And you can prepare a lot of different strategies, not just picks, but like play styles and stuff like that, you know, or compositions like DRX, where it's like, okay, every single champion that we have can pick someone and nearly blow them up in one go.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of fun with that, whereas control mages do not like that kind of a situation. They like sustained fights. As Blank this time around, thankfully for his sake, is gonna get all of those raptors.
For a second, I thought the ball was actually gonna steal quite a few of those. Just barely does not. So very fortunate for him, but it is a silver lining amongst missing jungle camps on the red side of the map for him. We are getting closer, as actually it's just hit now, the level 6 for Solka, which is the power spike where he actually starts to become really relevant around the map. He's not in a position to push for this top lane, but Pyosik's here.
Look at Pyosik trying to take the angle so he can't get hopped on. The sleep comes in, the flash over the wall. Meganar ready to go, but is it gonna matter? The damage is just too much, and Doran has no way to stop that from happening. First blood goes to Kingen as a very helpless Doran. There was nothing he could do.
There's nothing Blank could do either. He's actually been hovering around the blue side of the jungle because he's trying to trade back camps after all the vertical jungle you've been seeing from Pyosik, all the jungle steals. He's trying to trade anything back he can right now. And, you know, he's over here getting the red buff, but he was so far away. Pyosik knew it. They had the ward over the wall to make sure the equalizer could be aimed no matter what. It was going to connect. It was a really nicely timed gank with level 6 hitting across the board. And, you know, unfortunately for Solga, he didn't get involved in it. I mean, fortunately for me, I'd love to see some Nocturne ults early on, but it just wasn't necessary. He had, you know, Yukal had lane prio, and he has had it throughout this entire early game, but it just wasn't even necessary. And, you know, Blank has just been so behind, unfortunately, this game that there's going to be a few moments like this. I don't think this is going to be the last time we see Pyosik just have a rotational advantage like this. I mean, Doran was so deep in lane, and he gets slept. He actually flashes the sleep, so he's on the other side of the wall, but look at that ward over the wall, so the equalizer connects, and there's just too much damage output here.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, as we both talked about, getting this early lead is so powerful. I mean, Pyosik's back. He's up 2 levels. Blank gets a level here, thankfully, on the Raptors. As here we go, trying to engage now, but immediately the Hecarim just disappears, and the roam will come in. The equalizer on top of both of them. Yukal desperately trying to get something back, and he does get 1 kill, but that's now a double kill to the Nocturne mid. And Doran desperately trying to trade it back, but another massive trade in favor of DRX in the enemy jungle.
Yep. Kingen has actually traded this back so well, too. He's just going to keep trading onto Doran. Like, Doran's not going back to lane. He might not be going back alive. He gets one opportunity.
Trying to make this trade happen with the Mega Gnar, but I think he realizes right away, it's like, well, I can't get this going. He's going to bait in Kingen, though. Really nice bait, and I think Kingen went a little bit too far this time around. Gets punished in the enemy jungle.
Finally, Blank gets to, you know, have some involvement in this game. Picks up 2 assists. And, you know, helps trade this one back. But what a fantastic invade here once again from Pyosik. Blank, you know, gets the smite off here, but Yukal comes up just a little bit too late, and there's just nothing he can do. There's too much mobility with this Nocturne pick. And Pyosik's on the wrong side of this jungle, and is going to get traded back. Emperor's Divide goes down, but the damage output is just too much from Sokka, who now has the double buff. And yeah, I mean, Kingen just overextends here and gets Nard. It's actually like, you can see they both know the moment where this turns, but King had stayed too long. After this, then continues to chase. He's like, ah, all your cooldowns. He flashes forward, but Blank is here. And actually, even without Blank, I think with the stun on the wall there, ends up being Doran's trade. So another good moment for Doran here, which you look for the standout moments for this player for sure.
Mm-hmm. It was actually the moment that he showed weakness where Kingen got so... He was just so, he was like, okay, this is my moment. My opponent has shown weakness, now I can get in there. There's no way you're going to challenge this. Doran going to try to throw a boulder over there, not going to get much done. And finally, Blank is going to go for this Infernal Drake. I thought he could have gone for it a bit earlier, but perhaps just wanted to play it a little bit safe.
Yeah.
That Infernal Drake is going to help, at least, KT. You know, again, they have great scaling in their comp. They do have Azir Samira, so if you look at later game team fights, they're going to be having a fun time, and already getting that, you know, that lone Infernal Drake that there will be in this game is certainly going to help out. But the question is, can they survive? Because there's just so much unavoidable damage with Paranoia, the Equalizer that come out. So you're going to be looking to try to avoid fights, but I don't know if DRX is going to let you do it with your comp.
I think that KT have certainly handled this situation very well, and, you know, even Blank, as far behind as he is, and continues to be as this happens here, they're actually going to commit to the sleep here, but he's totally safe, so don't know if that was the best idea. But anyway,
they get the ult out at least.
I mean, it was a decent trade, but the trade to go for the Herald versus the Drake, I think, is one that is reasonable for DRX, because later on, when the Drakes are more valuable, like if they give this Drake up, it's fine. They take the next Drake and then start pushing towards Soul Point later and try to take those fights on their terms. That's fine. KT, though, on the other hand, is getting a Drake early faster towards that Soul Point if they're able to take the next one, which seems unlikely, but if they're able to do it, then they get to force those 5v5 team fights faster in the game than what DRX wants, because DRX wants to get a really early lead and keep taking these skirmishy fights. So, I mean, there are arguments to be made on both sides as to why this is the right choice, and I think it's why it's split that way, because both teams are very happy to take that exchange. The question is, yeah, can DRX survive until that point, or rather, can KT survive until that point, or will DRX pick them apart and continue to get these kills? Right now, they have a very slight gold lead, about 1,000 gold in the lead. But is it enough? I think time will tell on that one. I think it's a very good sign, at least, that 2 of those kills in this early game have gone to Solka, which makes him a lot more threatening.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting 1,000 gold here at 12 minutes, definitely going to be a nice, sizable lead. They would like more, but they do have this Rift Herald, so they're going to look to extend that a bit more even. I'll be curious to see where they do drop that, because I think that getting down the mid-turret would be pretty nice, kind of unlocking the Nocturne on the map, so maybe they would decide to go there. The top lane feels like the easy play that we see all the time. Obviously, Kingen has already done a nice amount of damage to that turret, so they might just look for the first turret blood and the plates to the Rumble.
Yeah.
It's gonna be nice. Anyway, you know, it doesn't, even though the Nocturne mid is like the cool, it's like the sexy pick, right? It doesn't have to be the one that gets like the crazy carry off.
Yeah.
If you feed your Rumble, that's really good anyway.
I mean, another option, which is probably arguably the hardest one to pull off, would be to push it into the bot lane and try to funnel some extra gold into Bow, and then try to use that control the bottom lane to, as we're going to see it pushed here, but it could have used that to control some Drake fights a little bit easier, threaten the bot lane when they're trying to side lane down there, but with all these things that we talked about, the possibilities and how difficult it is to execute, like this is the one that you just get value out of instantly. It just works, and you don't have to risk anything, so I take the safest option. I think all 3 options were okay, but the top one was definitely the easiest and safest.
Yeah, and it's the one where you get the turret here very early, so definitely the right play. As you can see, that gold lead going to extend to a bit over 2,000. And now, if you're DRX, you're in a really nice spot to try to roll this lead into more. And you can kind of unlock that Rumble, see if he can look for plays. I'll be curious to see if KT even fight over this Cloud Drake. You know,
yeah.
Obviously trying to get to a, you know, try to deny DRX from getting to a soul as early as possible, and also taking a Drake off the map and putting it into your pocket will just buy you more time.
This is
in both
yeah
scenarios. So getting it would be nice, but we'll see if KT take the risk of potentially getting baited into an early fight here.
This is the fight that if you're KT, if you do get the Drake, if you do win it, and if you can take a fight here at this stage where you're actually behind, it actually bodes really well for them going to the rest of the game if they can already win it here before we even get to the later parts of the game. But yeah, they're trying to weigh right now the risk of, okay, if we lose this fight and give the Drake over, then they get even further ahead and it gives them that tempo. If we don't take it and they take it, then we're not going to lose as much. So you really do have to weigh your risks here. And their comp still, even when behind, has great engage. I mean, we can't overstate how great this 5v5 comp is for KT. They have actually positional advantage here as well. And it looks like they were considering contesting it. Now they're kind of caught indecisive.
You can see Becca has no fear. He just runs straight at the 2 of them. He didn't even really have that much support. Of course, though, he's got Equalizer and the Nocturne ultimate to always threaten. So you saw that KT were just like, okay, I guess we got to back here.
Yeah.
KT, they do have this great team fighting composition.
They're grouped.
You also got to be careful about not stacking up for the Equalizer.
Yeah. They're grouped up here. I think this is definitely advantage KT. They're going to get this Drake for sure. And I think DRX a little bit too slow to pull the trigger.
Yeah, here we go. Equalizer comes down, the Paranoia as well, but grouping up very nicely on the retreat means that DRX will not chase into that jungle.
This is best
We've
case
seen
scenario.
many teams make that mistake as well.
Yeah, this is best case scenario for KT, though. They get the Drake without having to take a really risky fight. They were grouped up. They had better positioning there. They had, you know, a lot more assertion to push in towards the Drake, get that positional advantage on the pit. And, you know, they had to teleport in. Doran had to teleport in to make sure that they could take that fight, but it was all worth it. And Blank ulted out, and they had to run out with their tail between their legs, but they didn't give DRX any advantages here. They didn't trade over any kills. They got the Drake, and it was the riskiest situation that works out the best for them, where they actually ended up losing no one. And, I mean, I think that for DRX now, you're really frustrated you couldn't have actually gotten a bigger advantage out of that fight.
DRX in a kind of awkward spot here, too. Pyoshik is on the Rift Herald. Kingen has to flash away from the gank as well. Pyoshik is already up in the top lane. Got to be careful about this. The sleep is coming down. Meganar available. But you can see that Kingan's like, no, I don't have Equalizer. They have control of the river. We're not doing this, Pioshik. So
yeah,
both ultimates blown there, the sleep and the Equalizer from the side of DRX. And Pioshik is not able to pressure that Rift Herald just yet, although he will return to it now.
They're going to go ahead and look for the fight around this. Blank is super late to the party. So this is actually a really tough fight for KT to take. They're going to need a really nice Emperor's Divide if they are going to go ahead and engage onto this. And they're just so slow to get here. As the Slay is already here for DRX, they got it down.
Yeah. Paranoia comes in. Will he commit this time, or is it just to get... Okay, he's going to go onto the Gnar. They're trying to blow up the Gnar here, but Mega Gnar pops immediately, but it just does not matter, as Becca is going to bring in 2 and pick off UCal as well. Really nice Emperor's Divide. The Samira gets her ultimate off with a ton of damage and has been able to turn this fight around. So props to Hybrid to making it happen in that extended team fight and winning that one for KT.
I mean, this is a really bad sign for DRX. The fact that in these last 2 objective fights, the first one, they couldn't take anything away. They could get neither the Drake nor a kill. And in this fight, where they even commit the Paranoia, they're not able to find anything. And look at who they put it onto. They put it onto Doran, who's actually in the pit here. So very difficult to actually kill him. He Gnars up, and they fear him. They commit all of their resources to him. And then the turn happens here. As you see, UCal gets pushed into the pit, but look at the damage output on the side of KT. Hybrid has hit his power spike. They had a huge Emperor's Divide there. This composition is meant to team fight. It is meant to destroy a team that all-ins, that it goes into a team fight, kind of face-planting their way in, committing all their CC into something like a Gnar. You just turn that fight around with all of your CC, and the damage output for Hybrid is insane. He's got his Immortal Shield Bow, which is why he can commit it so freely. He's 3-0-0 right now, and it feels like we've the tempo advantage that DRX needed to have at this stage of the game. They're already behind in that regard. Like, they're still up in gold, but all of the objectives have gone to KT. This this fight going their way means that it just feels like DRX aren't going to be able to continue to push advantages like they were before. And this is a really rough spot for them to be. I mean, they could get a little bit of extra value out of this Rift Herald, but it's the second one, so not as good.
Well, they're going to use all their ultimates to open up some room here. And this is what tempo's all about, right? You can see they're immediately going to have to disengage because they use those ultimates just for room, like, literally zoning ultimates to get them out of there. And yes, they take down that turret because they're really trying to push their advantage while they can, but you're exactly right, Wolf. I think, especially with Mountain Drake coming up here in 50 seconds, if KT... I think even if they get 1, they're in such a good spot right here. They're going to have multiple members that have defensive items and will be able to scale into just being able to absorb Equalizers, Paranoias, sets jumping into your backline. They can easily kind of withstand that damage and just take the stronger 5v5. So I think KT's main objective now that they've kind of stabilized here in the mid-game is look for 1 Mountain Drake if possible, try to have good positioning like you did on the last Drake, and then go ahead from there and try to win in the late.
Yeah, I mean, for DRX right now, there's a little bit of, anti-synergy between the Jhin and the rest of the composition as well, because the rest of the comp is aggressively trying to burst and dive and look for, instant kills, instant blow-ups, but the Jhin is very slow, unfortunately, whereas KT have so much counter-engage. Look at the positioning here right now for UCal. He's at the back. He's not actually, at risk of being picked, and he can defensively set up for an Emperor's Divide if they dive in. Like, UCal's positioning here is so perfect, and they don't even commit. They can't. And this feels like the beginning of a really big advantage for KT Rolster.
Trying to jump onto the Lilia here. Doesn't seem like they have enough damage. Hybrid is going to get caught up on the top side. But the Lilia eventually does go down. Now 4-on-4, they're going to take out the set, but still a lot of damage remains here on the side of DRX. But look at UCal getting so much stun. He's going to dive onto the Rumble and take him down now. And you talked about this Jhin. Now he's all alone, quite literally, and he will be taken out with a triple kill going the way of UCal as DRX floundering and KT jump on them. They pounce in that team.
Yeah, they get the Drake. They're going to get now a Baron. Really great positioning from KT from start to finish, and UCal is the finisher here. As look at how slow this team fight pays out for the Jhin. You know, there's just not a whole lot he's able to do in this. He's kiting back. Look at where Doran is right now. DRX are caught in this choke point, and their damage output outside of the initial burst just isn't there. This team fight actually gets turned in an instant. The equalizer comes through, but look at the damage on this choke point, and we're going to see a massive Emperor's Divide here as well out of UCal. He's just so good at fighting in these chokes, whether it's on the Victor, whether it's on the Azir. And it's like, I feel like we're watching team fights where DRX are barely getting a kill or two, and then KT Rolster, with their better team fight in Copper, winning 4v5s or 3v5s right afterwards. And yeah, we're in a really dire position now for DRX.
Yeah, some of this mid-game decision-making has been questionable on the side of DRX. Like, even that last fight, right? Solka's mid, obviously he can paranoia in, but Koshik smites the scuttler, and so he can't even challenge. Okay, we're just going to full-on engage. That story will have to wait. They're trying to get into that backline here. Do they have the damage? They're getting a lot done, but perhaps not enough as they finally take out Hybrid. There's the equalizer, a lot of value, but UCal is now here, and he's got double buff, level 15. He will easily challenge King, and he's sitting in the flame. What BM is coming out from UCal? He's like, yeah, good job, buddy. You don't have enough damage. I've got a Mountain Drake now, too. And he easily shuts down DRX.
It's just so easy to counter engage, right, with this composition, especially with the Emperor's Divide, but also Blank as well on this Hecarim. It can turn things around in an instant when you do engage in. And even with the equalizer damage coming out from King, and even with the blinds, and what was an amazing sleep setup from Pioshik early on in the fight, they just don't have enough. And it feels like the missing link that we didn't really focus on in draft is the Jhin. He's just too slow for this composition. I'm really curious to see what his damage output's going to be in the post game, as Doran may have overextended a little bit here.
Well, he's got Blank to help him out. That's a 3-man ultimate. And you can see that Doran, with the Gore Drinker, he is very tanky. Solka is going to go down, and Doran's going to just barely go down at the end. But it was close. He got a lot of value. I mean, he's going to kill 3 members of DRX with his play, surviving for such a long time. Pioshik doing a little bit of surfing there. Gives the thumbs up, and that's going to be the end of that Lilia. And Wolf, it feels like this game is kind of nearing that end as well, as here's this engager.
Yeah, you know, it's triple sleep setup here, and Becca comes in. It's actually really nice engage the face breaker. Like, everything works like it's supposed to for DRX. Like, it's a nice engage for Pioshik. You have an amazing face breaker for Becca and Haymaker, but the counter engage is just too strong. You know, Emperor's Divide is amazingly powerful as a tool to shut down some of these heavy dives, also the Hecarim as well. And it feels like it was almost the plan from the beginning for KT Rolster. Their draft works so well in 5v5 team fights, and DRX just didn't get enough of an advantage. So it feels like we're just watching, you know, the idea of the composition for DRX is great. The execution is also great, but it's just too late. They're too far behind, and it just isn't going to work anymore. As Doran survives so long, like you said, he's turning this into an amazing trade for KT Rolster. You know, he dies, but the value is there. If Pioshik can't get away, UCal teleports in for the chase. And yeah, I think this game is definitely over. There's just no room left for DRX.
Yeah. As you mentioned, it was kind of a tempo composition. They lost it in the mid game. There were some decisions that were just they kind of left me scratching my head. And they gave away that Mountain Drake, and I think the second that UCal took the Mountain Drake, that was it in my mind. I'm like, okay, this one's kind of decided. KT, they're playing this out too well.
For me,
have handled the pressure extremely well as a team.
Yeah.
And now they're just really playing well with their lead. There's not much that DRX can do with their comp to come back here.
For me, I mean, the moment I thought it was over was when they won that Drake, or the Herald fight, you know? And then the Mountain Drake fight after that was like just the cherry on top for KT Rolster. I mean, you win that Herald fight, then you win the next Drake fight. It's like, okay, well, DRX just are taking 5v5 fights, and they're not winning any of them, even when their engages are working out basically the best you could expect them to. I mean, the play we're seeing from Kingen, his equalizers have been really good. The face breakers from Becca, all of the setup they have to try to burst down these targets is really good. So actually, look at the damage in this game. It's actually, if you look at it, 9.1 for Bao, higher than I expected in these fights. But they're just not able to finish off the most critical targets. UCal's positioning is so good. Blank is helping to turn this around quite a bit, and I mean, how do you win this as DRX now? You're not gonna you're not gonna be able to pull KT out of position enough with side laning to, you know, force someone out of position. Paranoia comes in, some sort of dive kill outside of that. As KT are just gonna otherwise stay grouped up. It's Doran on the Gnar side laning, so good luck killing him. I feel like for DRX, you're just hoping for mistakes at this stage.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, you still do have a nice amount of reach, but as you mentioned, you're reaching for like pillars, right? It's an R that's level 16, so good luck with that. Everybody on the side of DRX is level 14 and below, so UCal actually level 17, so we have someone that has beat Doran in levels, but it's all KT. I mean, they have 2 Mountain Drakes and the Mountain Soul now, so on top of that, they've hit their power spikes, right? We're entering the late game here, and we even have the Infernal to boot. So we have 4 item Azir.
Yeah.
About to be three item Samira, and I don't think there's any amount of damage that you're going to have in these fights for DRX. We'll see if they can get on top of Hybrid, and Solka tries his best and immediately just has to back away.
Yeah. Hybrid actually just pulls him in further. He's like, yo, you're coming for me. I'm gonna dash deep, and you're actually gonna go the wrong side of the team fight. So that ult is already on cooldown. King is already chunked down to half health, and KT is like, all right, well, we already have positional advantage for Baron take. You've already used your best initiation tools here outside of the sleep. So this is our fight to take on our terms now. I mean, I guess one way this could turn really is a really nice sleep setup for Pyosik. That's the dream. But even when we've seen that so far, they just haven't been able to kill anybody. And with the Mountain Soul and all the shielding, just so much survivability for KT Rolster. It's just unbelievable how much of a lead they have at this point. It can't be overstated how hard, like DRX's comp is like a knife trying to break through concrete. You know, it's very sharp, but with how hard KT is now, I mean, you're not going to scratch him.
You're exactly right. There's not much they can do. Becca here is just going to get blown up. You see the damage difference now is heavily in favor of KT. Solka into the back line will try his best, and he does have a stopwatch, as he will eventually go down as well. So no more set, no more Nocturne, and KT will be able to take down this Baron and look to take the game from there at around 30 minutes.
Yeah, just going to take this, try to push down some inhibitors. The map belongs to them completely. As, yeah, this fight is just really sad. You can see Becca is just instantly caught and blown up. And UCal, King is trying to actually get on top of UCal, but the collapse is really well done by KT Rolster. See the Paranoia committed as well. Solka has his stopwatch to survive. But they're so zoned out, there's no follow-up damage, and he alone, this far behind, can't insta-kill anybody. So, you know, he hasn't popped off. He hasn't gotten to the Chovy moment where he could just get into the backline, ult somebody, and blow them up, then stopwatch, and maybe his teammates come through. He's going in alone, and sadly, that's just not enough. His stopwatch is now broken, as is, I think, the chances of DRX pulling this one back. KT Rolster, it's going to take them a little while to, you know, push all these waves and start to get those inhibitors down, because they don't want to group up as 5 because they won't get this maximum value out of this Baron. But if they, you know, push in too hard as, you know, a side laner, maybe there's a chance DRX, when Paranoia is back up now, can maybe collapse on and kill somebody. So it's a very slow and safe finish here for KT Rolster, because they don't want to give DRX any options back into this, because the same reasons why they were strong in the early game, they can be strong against a fragmented or very split up KT Rolster.
Yeah, and UCal had 2 stopwatches. He was doing the same thing he did on his TF game in the Telecom War. But he did have to sell his stopwatch for a needlessly large rod. So he's got that. Samira's got her own stopwatch. They have double Mountain Drake with the Mountain Soul and multiple defensive items now. They're going to look to push in here and improve their Baron power play stat as much as possible. See that Doran? He's like thinking about the 1v5. He's like, I wonder if I could do this.
I mean, he certainly has some opportunities for some big stuns if they tried to push out of the base and chase him towards that part of the jungle. But I mean, they eventually get the lanes pushed safely and slowly. Then they group up. Now, how can you engage into this if you're DRX? You can't really. You have to just watch your base go to shambles, and you're hoping for a miracle for this Elder Drake fight. I mean, that's really all you've got. If you're DRX here, they clear the waves out. They lost mid and bottom inhibitors, so the waves are always going to be pushed. The vision is always going to be in the favor of KT Rolster. So how do you even paranoia in safely? I mean, that in itself is a challenge at this stage.
Or at all, you know.
Maybe you shouldn't, yeah.
If you can't see them, you can't paranoia in, so good luck with that, getting any vision. They've used 2 blue trinkets now. And, well, this is going to be the Elder going the way of KT. They're going to try to snipe it here. It is not successful. And I like how KT, you know, they probably could have just pushed in with the lead that they have and won, but you don't want to just take some weird fluky fight and then die and give the Elder Drake to DRX. So they're doing the safe play. They back away, teleport in from Doran, buy up as much items as possible, as many items as possible. And then you push with the Elder Drake, and that's what they'll look to do now.
I mean, they have so much shielding. They have executes now with the Elder Drake. One last stand here for DRX. As, I mean, if they engage in, they face certain death. But if they wait, then they also face certain death. They're between a rock and a hard place here. KT, though, really respecting the strong damage output. It's the equalizer to just slow this down. That's so sad.
It's the saddest equalizer we've ever seen. Could only see like half of it too because of the hill over there. Oh man. Well, KT, just thinking about how they're gonna get in here. There is there's an okay amount of wave clear. Right? You've got Nocturne and Rumble, so there are methods to try to, you know, stop the waves from coming in. Paranoia just going to be used to deny some vision. I think he ulted there onto Yukal. Yukal has almost more than full health after that one, so yeah. Barely even noticed it. Doran looking for the flash play here. Doesn't look like he'll be able to get it. Really nice Emperor's Divide into that fountain, as the equalizer does get a lot of value, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be way too much here from KT, as the double kill will go the way of Hybrid, and they will finally end that game at about